Good day. My name for broadcast purposes is Grandpa 1940, and I come to you today discussing how we are almost separated from news which is important to us as opposed to anyone else in this planet. We have for the past couple of days been sort of witness to large amounts of newspaper and television time being shoveled at us by the Epstein files, and in this case for the imposition on those files of the antics of Lord Mandelson. Now, Lord Mandelson was a Labour Party politician, and he was an MP. He was also a minister, but he features quite prominently in email correspondence between himself and the now dead pedophile Epstein. But I wish to compare this story with another story. But this story, as I say, we only this morning on BBC Radio Today, we were witness to, we saw and heard literally half an hour of reports and conjecture and possible this and that and the other, which is sort of talking about whether Lord Mandelson should give up his peerage, or whether it should be taken away from him, or should he now be subject to a police investigation because he is alleged to have sent private and delicate government news to this dead pedophile Epstein, and this is the result of this huge dump of files from the Department of Justice in America. So, as I say, this is the way that the BBC approaches this is to virtually put everything aside and concentrate solely on the fallen idol, which is now Peter Lord Mandelson. Now, to a certain extent, it is almost to be expected that this man is subject to, or should be subject to, an increased level of intrusive activity. He should be questioned under oath, and if necessary, the police will present to the CPS possibility of charges to be brought against him by, I forget the entire term, the exact term which is used, but it's to do with the truth in Parliament. But at the same time, as Jeffrey Epstein's correspondence with Mandelson was being sort of hammered into the ground with the amount of time taken up, another very important series of investigations is virtually ignored. Now, many of you may have heard of Rupert Lowe, who was an MP. He was a member of the Reform Party, but they fell out, and he now sits as an independent MP, and I might add, a damn good MP at that. He is independent. He shows no favour to anybody, any party, but especially he shows little favour whatsoever to the whole political party idea of all hands together. If I might expand, the Labour Party, somewhere at about 6-9 months back, was pressured into commencing a national inquiry into the Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs, which have been operating with virtual impunity in the northern towns and some cities, and in case as well as in London under the dubious mayoralty of Sadiq Khan. But as I say, the Labour Party was pressured, and eventually they started the long and tortuous procedure of establishing a national inquiry, but it was so half-hearted that I believe Rupert Lowe took this and made it a settled thing to start up his own independent grooming Muslim inquiry. He crowdfunded the money to start up the operation, which was, I believe, the single crowdfunding exercise to be achieved. He achieved his goal of a certain sort of many thousands of cash in a very, very short time. And even then, there was an attempt by, I think, one of the Labour politicians to go to the Professional Standards Department and state that he hadn't put in his members' interests that all the money that hadn't been declared properly. But it had been declared properly, because Rupert Lowe is not a man who would let slip something which could be grasped by his enemies. But I digress. The grooming gang inquiry, the Pakistani Muslim grooming gang inquiry, fathered by Rupert Lowe, was established. And yesterday was the first day of sort of the statements by the survivors of these grooming gangs from all over England. Now, I think we must pause just a little bit and examine what is being done and what is being said. And I'm just going to quickly, here we are, no, I can't find it. I thought I had it on file, but I don't. But anyway, some of the initial statements and recorded statements of these innocent white girls is so obscene as to be virtually unprintable. But it must be printed and it must be seen. And these people, not only the Muslim gangs, but those who protected them because of their Muslim religion, Islam, they protected them because if the police and if the councils had been doing their jobs properly, these people would have been arrested a hell of a lot sooner than they actually were. Now, I don't like calling out names, but one young lady whose name is Samantha Smith appeared on GB News with Mark Stein and stated that from the age of 5 she was groomed, abused and sexually molested by Muslim men covered by council officials who refused to take any action. As Samantha said and posted on X, girls of 5 are not prostitutes. Girls of 5 are not gagging for it. Girls of 5 are children, and children are not responsible. They were pressured, they were pushed, and in many cases they were tortured into the abuse, which almost definitely has ruined and scarred their tiny lives forever. But as I say, the Rupert Lowe inquiry began its hearings yesterday, and how many news outlets, how many newspapers, how many television news channels covered this thing? I doubt if there was one. Yes, Rupert Lowe and his fellow acolytes put out the video on X Twitter channel with the opening statement, and a very impressive opening statement it was. But if you aren't sort of, if you haven't pressed the appropriate buttons to follow Rupert Lowe, you would not know that such an inquiry has begun its findings. And I have to ask, why is this? Why is something which is so important as to literally examine every town, every city, and bring in the survivors to retell their stories before proceeding to private prosecutions, which is the end aim of this particular game? Why is it that no one is talking about it? No one at all is talking about this man, and a member of Parliament, and a duly appointed and exercised inquiry. No one is talking about it. No one even mentions it. How bloody dare they? The BBC, ITV, Sky News, They're all the bloody same. They will not mention it because they are shit scared of the backlash from the Muslims who now are running behind the scenes in much of British political life. And that is the truth. The so-called Palestinian and Gaza hate marches, they got away with literally murder because the police would not go bloody near them. In fact, I watched a video I think it was on X again, that a tall, youngish Jewish man was accosted by the police and told that if he didn't leave the scene of this march, he would be arrested. Not because of what he was saying, but the police were saying that his presence would alarm and offend the bloody Muslims on this fucking march. It's disgraceful. Time after time, we see the police scavenging independent journalists because they dare to try and speak out about the two-tier system of justice, of news suppression. And this is not the England that I grew up in. This is not the Great Britain that my father joined the army to fight for his country. This is not the Britain that fought in 2 world wars to make sure that everyone was free. This is not the Britain that I once thought was a shining light of democracy. Because if Rupert Lowe's inquiry is ignored, the question which must be asked is why? And the answer is simple. Because the authorities, those that know, are shit scared of the stories coming out once more about the appalling way these girls have been treated, not only by the Pakistani Muslim rapists, but by the authorities, by the police, by the councils, by government, in order to protect a bunch of scavenging bastards. I thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again.